On a cold December morning in 2014, 3-year-old Lorelei Batty's screams pierced through the silence of her home in Santa Maria, California. Her tiny body writhed in agony, clutching her stomach as waves of nausea overwhelmed her. Her parents, Carolyn and Kyle, rushed her to the emergency room, their hearts pounding with fear as they watched their baby girl suffer in ways they'd never seen before. The emergency room doctors at their local hospital took one look at the pale, vomiting child and delivered their verdict with confidence. "It's just the flu. Take her home, give her fluids, and she'll be fine in a few days." But as the days turned into weeks, and Lorelei's condition worsened instead of improved, the Batty family would discover that sometimes the most dangerous diagnoses hide behind the mask of common illnesses. What started as a seemingly routine childhood illness would become a 9-month medical odyssey that would take this family through 7 different hospitals, countless sleepless nights, and ultimately to the operating room of one of the most gifted surgeons in the country, Dr. Kim, known in medical circles as Dr. Miracle, for his extraordinary ability to perform the impossible. This is more than just a medical case. This is the story of a little girl who refused to give up, parents who fought against every odd, and a brilliant surgeon who would risk everything to save a life that others had written off. It's a testament to the power of hope, the miracles that can happen when medicine meets compassion, and the incredible resilience of the human spirit. Lorelei's journey would lead her to face one of the rarest and most complex surgeries ever performed on a child, a procedure so intricate that only a handful of hospitals in the entire United States could attempt it. But before we reach that miraculous day, we must first understand how a simple misdiagnosis nearly cost a precious life. If stories of medical miracles and human courage inspire you, please subscribe and join us as we explore these incredible journeys of healing. Because sometimes, the most powerful medicine isn't found in a bottle. It's found in the unwavering determination to never give up. But the nightmare was just beginning, and what the Batty family didn't know was that their daughter's real battle hadn't even started yet. For 10 agonizing days after that first emergency room visit, Lorelei's condition spiraled downward like a plane losing altitude. What should have been a typical case of childhood flu became a parent's worst nightmare. Carolyn barely slept, constantly checking on her daughter who would wake up screaming in the middle of the night, her small body drenched in sweat and trembling with pain. "Something isn't right," Carolyn told Kyle one evening as they watched Lorelei refuse another meal, her usual bright personality replaced by listless exhaustion. "The flu doesn't last this long. The flu doesn't cause this kind of pain." Kyle, trying to maintain his composure while his own worry grew, placed a reassuring hand on his wife's shoulder. "The doctors said it was viral. Maybe it's just taking longer to run its course." But deep down, both parents felt that familiar parental instinct, that something was terribly wrong with their little girl. When Lorelei began vomiting everything she tried to eat and her temperature spiked to dangerous levels, they knew they couldn't wait any longer. The second trip to the emergency room brought a different doctor, one who took a longer look at the suffering child. Dr. Martinez, a pediatric resident, noticed something his colleague had missed: the way Lorelei instinctively curled into a protective position, guarding her abdomen from even the gentlest touch. "I want to run some blood tests," Dr. Martinez announced, his expression serious. "And we're going to need some imaging." The blood work came back with alarming results. Lorelei's white blood cell count was through the roof, and her pancreatic enzyme levels were dangerously elevated. The CT scan revealed what no parent ever wants to hear. Their 3-year-old daughter had pancreatitis, a condition so rare in children that many doctors go their entire careers without seeing a pediatric case. "Pancreatitis in children is like finding a needle in a haystack," Dr. Martinez explained to the stunned parents. "It's incredibly uncommon, which is why it was missed initially. The pancreas is inflamed and not functioning properly, which explains all of her symptoms." Carolyn felt her world tilt on its axis. But how? How does a 3-year-old get pancreatitis? We've never even heard of it happening to kids. The answer would come later through genetic testing, but for now, all that mattered was getting Lorelei the specialized care she desperately needed. Little did they know, this diagnosis was just the tip of the iceberg, and their daughter's condition would prove far more complex than anyone could imagine. As Lorelei was transferred to the pediatric ward of a larger hospital, her medical team began the detective work that would ultimately save her life. Dr. Sarah Chun, a pediatric gastroenterologist, took over Lorelei's case with the methodical precision of a scientist and the gentle heart of someone who understood that behind every complex medical case was a scared child and terrified parents. Pancreatitis in someone so young usually means there's an underlying cause, Dr. Chen explained to the Batty family during their first consultation. We need to find out what's triggering these attacks so we can treat her properly. The genetic testing results arrived 3 weeks later, and they confirmed Dr. Chen's suspicions. Lorelei carried a rare genetic mutation that caused her pancreas to produce defective enzymes. Instead of helping digest food properly, these faulty proteins were literally causing her pancreas to digest itself from the inside out. Think of it like this. Dr. Chen used a gentle analogy that Carrie Lynn could understand. Lorelei's pancreas is like a factory that's supposed to make tools to help break down food. But because of this genetic change, it's making broken tools that turn around and damage the factory itself. Kyle gripped his wife's hand tighter as the implications sank in. So this isn't going away? This is going to keep happening. Dr. Chen nodded gravely. Without proper treatment, yes. Each attack causes more scarring, more damage. Eventually, the pancreas becomes so damaged that it can't function at all. What made Lorelei's case particularly heartbreaking was watching how this bright, energetic little girl tried to cope with pain that would bring grown adults to their knees. She would ask her parents in her small voice, "When will my tummy stop hurting? And can we go home and play now?" Not understanding why simple activities like eating had become impossible. The medical team tried everything conventional medicine had to offer. They put Lorelei on pancreatic enzyme supplements, pain medications, and special diets. They tried different combinations of treatments, consulted with specialists across the country, and monitored her condition around the clock. But as the months passed, it became clear that traditional treatments weren't enough. Lorelei's attacks became more frequent and more severe. The once vibrant child who loved playing in her backyard was now confined to hospital beds, connected to 4 lines, unable to eat without excruciating pain. "We're losing her," Dr. Chen confided to her colleague one evening after examining Lorelei during another severe episode. "Not in the way you might think, but we're losing the child she's supposed to be. The pain is stealing her childhood, one day at a time." As traditional medicine reached its limits, the family faced an impossible decision that would change everything. By June of 2015, Lorelei had become a frequent flyer at 7 different hospitals. Her tiny arms were covered in needle marks from countless blood draws and 4 insertions. She had developed a fear of white coats and would cry whenever she saw medical equipment. But perhaps most heartbreaking of all, she had stopped asking when she could go home. Carrie Lynn had transformed from a working mother into a full-time medical advocate, learning medical terminology that no parent should ever need to know. She kept detailed logs of Lorelei's symptoms, tracked her pain levels, and had memorized every medication dosage. Kyle had taken leave from his job, and the family's savings were rapidly depleting as medical bills piled up. "The doctors keep trying the same things over and over," Carrie Lynn confessed to her mother during one of their late-night phone calls. "They're managing her pain, but they're not fixing the problem. I feel like we're just watching her waste away." During this darkest period, Lorelei developed a complication that would nearly take her life. The constant inflammation in her pancreas had caused it to start leaking digestive enzymes into her abdomen and chest cavity. These powerful enzymes, designed to break down food, were now attacking her internal organs. Dr. Chen called an emergency meeting with the Batty family. Her usual calm demeanor was replaced by visible urgency as she explained the gravity of the situation. "Lorelei's condition has become life-threatening," she said, her voice heavy with the weight of her words. "The pancreatic secretions are damaging her lungs and heart. We've reached the point where we need to consider more drastic measures." "What kind of drastic measures?" Kyle asked, though something in the doctor's tone told him he didn't want to know the answer. "There's a procedure called total pancreatectomy with islet autotransplantation. It involves removing the pancreas completely and then transplanting the insulin-producing cells back into the liver." The silence in the room was deafening. Carrie Lynn felt as if the floor had dropped out from under her. "Remove her pancreas? Completely? Is that even possible?" Dr. Chen nodded slowly. "It's incredibly complex, and only a few hospitals in the country can perform it on children. There's one doctor in particular who has had remarkable success with these cases, Dr. Kim at UCSF. They call him Dr. Miracle because of his ability to perform surgeries that others consider impossible." But even as hope flickered in their hearts, the reality of what this meant hit them hard. Their 3-year-old daughter would need one of the most complex pediatric surgeries ever attempted, performed by a surgeon they'd never met, at a hospital hundreds of miles from home. The decision to pursue this radical surgery would require more courage than any parent should ever need, but sometimes miracles demand extraordinary faith. At the University of California, San Francisco, Dr. Kim was reviewing Lorelei's case files in his office overlooking the Bay Area. Known throughout the medical community as Dr. Miracle, he had earned this nickname not through media hype, but through decades of successfully performing surgeries that other physicians deemed impossible. His hands moved with the precision of a master craftsman, and his mind worked like a chess player, always thinking several moves ahead. When Dr. Kim first saw Lorelei's medical records, he felt that familiar stirring he always experienced when faced with a seemingly impossible case. This wasn't just about medical challenge for him. It was about a little girl who deserved a chance at a normal childhood. "She's been through 7 hospitals," Dr. Kim murmured to Dr. Sue Rhee, his colleague and co-director of the Pediatric Pancreas Program. "Look at these imaging studies. The damage is extensive, but not irreversible if we act quickly." Dr. Rhee, equally passionate about pediatric care, studied the files with growing concern. "The pancreatic leak into her chest cavity is particularly worrying. If we don't intervene soon, the damage to her heart and lungs could be permanent." When the Batty family arrived at UCSF in June, they were mentally and emotionally exhausted. They had pinned all their hopes on this one doctor, this one chance for their daughter to have a future free from constant pain. Dr. Kim's first meeting with them would set the tone for everything that followed. He knelt down to Lorelei's eye level as she sat in her wheelchair, speaking to her in a gentle voice that immediately put her at ease. "Hello, Lorelei. I'm Dr. Kim. I've heard you're a very brave girl, and I want to help make your tummy feel better." For the first time in months, Lorelei smiled, a real smile that reached her eyes. Something about this doctor felt different to her, safer somehow. Standing up to address her parents, Dr. Kim's expression became more serious, but his voice remained calm and reassuring. "I'm going to be honest with you. This surgery is incredibly complex, and there are risks. But I've performed this procedure many times, and I believe it's Lorelei's best chance at living a normal life." Carrie Lynn felt tears well up in her eyes. "Doctor, we've been told so many times that there's nothing more they can do. Are you saying there's real hope?" Dr. Kim looked directly into her eyes with the confidence of someone who had defied medical odds countless times before. "Mrs. Batty, I don't make promises I can't keep. But I can tell you this, I will do everything in my power to give your daughter her childhood back." But before the miracle could happen, Dr. Kim and his team would face complications that would test even his legendary skills. The first few weeks at UCSF were a whirlwind of tests, consultations, and treatment preparations. Dr. Kim and his team worked around the clock to stabilize Lorelei's condition enough for the surgery to be possible. The pancreatic leak that was damaging her organs needed to be controlled, her nutritional status had to be improved, and her overall strength had to be built up for what would be one of the most demanding surgeries of her young life. "Every day we wait, more damage occurs," Dr. Kim explained to his surgical team during their morning rounds. "But if we operate while she's in this condition, she won't survive the procedure. We need to find that perfect window." Dr. Rhee coordinated with specialists from every department: gastroenterology, endocrinology, nutrition, pain management, and intensive care. Each expert brought their knowledge to bear on Lorelei's case, creating a comprehensive treatment plan that would give her the best possible chance of success. Lorelei, meanwhile, was forming a special bond with Dr. Kim. Every morning, he would visit her room and spend a few minutes just talking with her about her favorite cartoons, her sister Daria back home, or anything that would make her smile. These weren't just medical visits. They were moments of genuine human connection that reminded everyone involved why they had chosen to dedicate their lives to healing. "Dr. Kim makes my tummy hurt less just by talking to me," Lorelei told her mother one afternoon. "He has magic hands." If only she knew how prophetic those words would prove to be. As the weeks progressed, the medical team noticed gradual improvements in Lorelei's condition. The pancreatic leak was slowly being controlled, her pain levels were becoming more manageable, and most importantly, she was gaining strength. But time was still their enemy. Every day that passed meant more irreversible damage to her pancreas and surrounding organs. Dr. Kim made the difficult decision to schedule the surgery for September 8th, Lorelei's 4th birthday. "I know it seems cruel to schedule such a major operation on her birthday," he told the Batty family, "but medically, it's our optimal window. And if everything goes well, it could be the greatest birthday gift she ever receives." Carrie Lynn and Kyle agreed, though the irony wasn't lost on them. Instead of planning a birthday party, they were preparing for a surgery that would either save their daughter's life or represent their greatest fear realized. The night before the surgery, Dr. Kim spent extra time reviewing every detail of the procedure. He studied Lorelei's anatomy, planned every incision, and mentally rehearsed each step of the complex operation that would unfold over the next day. September 8th dawned clear and bright, but for the Batty family, it would be the longest day of their lives. At 6:30 a.m. on September 8th, 2015, the operating rooms at UCSF were buzzing with activity. Dr. Kim and his team were preparing for what would be one of the most complex pediatric surgeries ever attempted. The total pancreatectomy with islet autotransplantation required not just surgical skill, but perfect coordination between multiple teams working simultaneously. Lorelei was wheeled into the operating room, holding a small stuffed elephant that Dr. Kim had given her the night before. "Mr. Peanuts will keep you safe while I'm working," he had told her. "And when you wake up, your tummy won't hurt anymore." As the anesthesia took effect and Lorelei drifted into peaceful sleep, Dr. Kim took a deep breath and began the procedure that would test every skill he had developed over his distinguished career. The first phase involved the delicate removal of Lorelei's pancreas. This wasn't simply a matter of cutting and removing. Every movement had to be precise to preserve as many of the insulin-producing islet cells as possible. These microscopic clusters of cells would be Lorelei's only hope of avoiding severe diabetes after the surgery. "Scalpel," Dr. Kim requested, his voice calm and steady despite the complexity of what lay ahead. His hands moved with the fluid precision that had earned him his nickname, each cut calculated to minimize damage while accessing the diseased organ. Meanwhile, in the hallways outside, Carrie Lynn and Kyle paced endlessly. Every 2 hours, transplant coordinator Marilyn McKinhill would call them with updates, but each conversation felt like an eternity. "The pancreas is out and on its way to the islet isolation lab," came one update. "Dr. Kim says everything is proceeding exactly as planned." In the specialized laboratory adjacent to the operating room, technicians began the painstaking process of isolating Lorelei's islet cells from the removed pancreas. This process, which would take nearly 4 hours, involved using specific enzymes to digest away all the non-islet tissue while preserving the precious insulin-producing cells. Back in the operating room, Dr. Kim continued with the reconstruction phase of the surgery. He had to reconnect Lorelei's small intestine, reroute her bile duct, and place a feeding tube, all while part of her stomach, which had become inflamed and scarred, also needed to be removed. "How are we doing with the islets?" Dr. Kim asked during a brief pause in the surgery. "Looking good," came the response from the lab. "We're getting excellent cell viability numbers." After 4 hours of meticulous work in the laboratory, the isolated islet cells were ready for transplantation. They were brought back into the operating room in a small bag, containing millions of microscopic cells that held the key to Lorelei's future. Dr. Kim now faced the final and perhaps most delicate phase of the surgery, transplanting these precious cells into Lorelei's liver through a catheter inserted into the portal vein. This required not just technical skill, but an almost artistic touch to ensure the cells were distributed properly throughout the liver. "These cells are Lorelei's future," Dr. Kim murmured as he began the transplantation process. "Each one has the potential to produce the insulin she'll need to live a normal life." As the surgery entered its final hours, the real test was just beginning. After 9.5 hours of surgery, Dr. Kim finally stepped back from the operating table, exhausted but cautiously optimistic. The procedure had gone as well as anyone could have hoped. Lorelei's damaged pancreas was gone, her anatomy had been successfully reconstructed, and millions of healthy islet cells were now settling into their new home in her liver. The surgery was challenging, but it went very well, Dr. Kim told the anxiously waiting parents. "We were able to harvest an excellent number of islet cells, and the transplantation process was smooth. Now we wait and see how well her body accepts these cells." For the Batty family, hearing these words felt like taking their first breath after drowning. Kyle hugged Carrie Lynn as tears of relief streamed down both their faces. Their little girl had survived the most dangerous day of her life. In the days that followed, Lorelei's recovery was nothing short of remarkable. The child who had been in constant pain for 9 months was now pain-free for the first time since that terrible December morning. Her energy began returning, her appetite improved, and most importantly, she started acting like a 4-year-old again. "She's asking to go outside and play," Carrie Lynn told Dr. Kim during one of his daily visits. "She hasn't asked to play in months." Dr. Kim smiled, watching as Lorelei colored in a coloring book, completely absorbed in choosing the perfect shade of purple for a butterfly's wings. The islet cells are functioning beautifully. Her blood sugar levels are stable, and all indicators suggest the transplantation was successful. The recovery process wasn't without its challenges. Lorelei had to relearn how to eat after months of intravenous nutrition. Her digestive system needed time to adjust to functioning without a pancreas. But each day brought noticeable improvement, and the medical team could see their young patient blossoming back into the child she was meant to be. On October 14th, after 5 weeks of recovery and observation, Lorelei was finally ready to go home. As they wheeled her out of the hospital, the same little girl who had been wheeled in months earlier, clinging to life, she was chattering excitedly about seeing her sister Daria and playing in their backyard again. The moment they arrived home, Lorelei did something that brought tears to her parents' eyes. She marched straight to the backyard and turned on the garden hose, laughing as the water sprayed everywhere. It was such a simple, ordinary thing. But for a family who had lived in hospitals for 9 months, it represented everything they had almost lost. Today, years later, Lorelei's story continues to inspire families facing seemingly impossible medical challenges. Today, Lorelei Batty is a healthy, active young girl whose only reminder of her medical ordeal is the daily insulin she takes while her transplanted islet cells continue to establish themselves fully in her liver. Her doctors remain optimistic that eventually, she may not need insulin at all, a testament to the remarkable success of Dr. Kim's surgical miracle. The Batty family's journey through the medical system taught them that sometimes the most important thing isn't finding the right diagnosis. It's finding the right doctor who refuses to accept that nothing more can be done. Dr. Kim's willingness to take on impossible cases has given countless families hope when traditional medicine reached its limits. Lorelei's case has also contributed to advancing medical knowledge about pediatric pancreatitis and the total pancreatectomy with islet autotransplantation procedure. Her success has helped other children with similar conditions, creating a ripple effect of healing that extends far beyond one little girl's recovery. For families facing rare diseases or complex medical conditions, Lorelei's story offers a powerful message. Never give up, seek out specialists who understand your condition, and remember that medical miracles happen every day in the hands of doctors who dare to attempt the impossible. The little girl who once asked, "No more hospitals? Can I live here now?" has indeed found her way home. She plays with her sister, attends school, and dreams of becoming a doctor herself someday, perhaps to help other children the way Dr. Kim helped her. Sometimes the greatest medical miracles aren't just about surgical technique or advanced procedures. They're about human connection, unwavering hope, and the extraordinary things that can happen when a doctor sees not just a complex case, but a child who deserves a chance to grow up. In Lorelei's laughter echoing through her backyard, we hear the sound of hope fulfilled and dreams restored. Her journey reminds us that behind every medical statistic is a human story, and that the most powerful medicine will always be the combination of cutting-edge science and compassionate care delivered by those who refuse to give up on their patients.